Very few of us, including myself, have unlimited access to high demand, high sell-through rate inventory, and so we have to figure out other ways to keep our sales going during the times of the year when it might be slower, like right now. The best thing you can do to increase sales on eBay is to... Checking for dog hair. Always dog hair on this microphone. Dog hair everywhere in my house, covering everything. Hey, welcome back to my weekly show where I talk about the ups and downs and in-betweens of selling on eBay. Hope you all in the United States had a good 4th of July. Hope you're not missing any fingers. Let's jump into some viewer questions. Loretta asks, is that really your home in the background of your videos? As a reseller, I would expect your home to have inventory stacked on all available surfaces. Your home is too neat. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That is my house in the background there. I'm sitting in my basement. Actually, a basement remodel that I did a few years ago paid entirely by selling stuff on eBay. It's like a little home theater room / home office. So I use this to record my videos and I do all my work down here. And on the weekends, we watch movies on the screen back there. But none of this is my eBay reselling space. But I do have an unfinished part of the basement on the other side, and that is stacked with all sorts of junk. So don't think I'm overly neat or necessarily organized here. Figured I'd pause it really quick. Instead of describing it, I'll just walk you around here. This is where I do all my work. And this is the office and theater room here. And on the other side over here is where the magic happens. As you can see, I've got a lot of stuff in here. This is all inventory waiting to be processed right here. I've got other inventory waiting to be processed over here. This is my main listing station on this side, and then shipping station right here, photo station, and then the bulk of my inventory is stored in boxes right on this side. So I try to keep it pretty organized, but there's definitely a lot of stuff all over the place. So, all right, this question comes from Big Papa over on the Flipwise Discord server. How do you guys approach people that message asking if they can pick up and pay in cash instead of going through eBay? Thank you for the question. That is a good question, and especially if you're a new seller on eBay, you may think it's enticing to respond to a message like that you may get from an eBay buyer because you guys would both save on money. They could get the item cheaper. You wouldn't have to pay fees, but it's a big no-no in eBay world. So eBay is reading these messages. A human is not reading all of your messages, but they have automation that reads these messages, and if they think you're trying to set up a sale outside of eBay and skirt their fees, they will ban your account for that. And so if somebody tries to do this, you're asking for your phone number, asking for your email address, I recommend you do not respond at all, or you decline and say, no, I will not set up. Just make it very clear in the messages that you have no interest in doing the deal outside of eBay. So be very careful doing that. Deals that originate on eBay, you want to keep them on eBay and protect your account. Let's get into my sales for the week. By the way, I'll be answering more viewer questions sprinkled throughout these top 10 sales, so stick around if you want to see those. And if you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to ask in the comment section below, and I will answer them in a future video. So this week was a pretty decent week, especially because it was 4th of July. Typically, holiday weeks like this can be pretty slow, but I did okay. Definitely better than last week. I had a total ROI of 1,045% and a 57% net profit margin. The gross income for the week was $815 and a net income of $518. So pretty good net income. I've been in the 400s of the past few weeks. So glad to see it slowly increasing there. You can see things peaked actually on the 4th of July, which is surprising. I had $275 in gross sales and $195 in net sales. Scrolling down, I didn't do a whole lot of new listing this week as I did have some folks from out of town for the holidays. And that's the good thing about eBay is you can just sort of not do it if you don't want to, and you can still get some sales coming in. You're going to get more the more active you are in listing, but sometimes you just need to take some time off. And I do this part-time. It's not my full-time gig. And so it's a little bit easier for me to kind of turn it off and on whenever I want. This was a week where I turned it off a little bit, but still had 22 sales. Not bad. The average time to sell for the stuff I sold over the last week was 5 months, and I spent only $60 on new inventory over the past 7 days. Coming in at number 10 is this Arnold Wiggs Fabriker pottery dish. One of those scenarios where I touched it and it sold. This thing has been sitting in my inventory for 5 months, and I just happened to see it on the shelf as I was moving stuff around. I picked it up. I thought, that's weird. I've had this thing for a while, and sure enough, a couple days later, it sells. I know that y'all have experienced that phenomenon as well. Super weird. This thing sold for $22.49 plus $10 in shipping for a total of $32.48 and the 10th best flip of the week. My net return on it was only $19.89. Like I said, it did take 5 months to sell. I got it off Facebook Marketplace off a bulk buy deal, only had $1 into it. Pretty good little sale for the 10th best flip of the week. Coming in at number 9, I got this at an estate sale. This is a Columbia branded jacket from the 90s. This is a men's purple and teal, very 90s look to it. $36.13 in the full heat of summer. Jackets can sell pretty much anytime. They're going to sell more in the fall and the winter, but they sell in summer as well. As you can see, this one brought in $36.13. My net return was $21.12. I spent $4 at that estate sale on it. Net profit margin of 58% for the 9th best flip of the week. Cynthia asks, how long should you hold on to your photos once an item has been listed or sold? I can't think of a good reason why you might want to hold on to your photos. I'm sure if I'm saying that out loud, there are good reasons out there, and some of you viewers will chime in the comments and tell me what those good reasons are. I personally have no reason to hold on to any photos at all. eBay keeps those photos that can be re-downloaded as long as the listing is live, and it retains those photos for 90 days after the item is sold. I guess if I had an item that I was going to replenish and continuously sell, that I may save the photos somewhere, but even then I would probably just keep that listing live even when it's out of stock so I could just replenish it. So again, I can't think of a good reason why I would hold on to those photos. It's really, if you need them again, you can download them from the listing directly. You just right click on it and save image. In fact, there's a setting on the eBay app, which is a really handy thing to turn off. It's store photos to eBay album. So if you're taking photos for your eBay listings using your phone, it will typically by default save those photos to your phone, which is annoying because it ends up filling up all your photos with random product photos of whatever eBay things you're listing. You can uncheck that store photos to eBay album. That way it doesn't save those photos to your phone, and it only saves them to the listing. It's kind of a handy little trick. So yeah, I don't save them at all, and I've never had a reason to. I've never had any images lost or anything like that. I've heard of sellers complaining about eBay losing images, but it's never happened to me in close to 25 years selling on the platform, thousands and thousands of things every year. So maybe I'm just lucky, but I can't think of a good reason to save your photos, so I wouldn't worry about it. Coming in at number 8 is this nice little garage sale find that I picked up for only $3. A Disneyland Resorts, brand new with tags, large sized shirt, $36.98 for the 8th best flip of the week. My net return was $23.63. Anything Disney branded like this, I tend to pick up if it's new with tags. If it wasn't new with tags, I probably would not have picked it up, but it did take only 16 days to sell for the 7th best flip of the week. Net return of $23.63. Oop, that was the 8th best flip of the week. Sorry. I always forget. Coming in at number 7 is this perfume. We bought it at a garage sale for only $1. It sold in 1 month for $36.98. Dossier Ambry Saffron. Dossier Ambry Saffron. I don't know. Whatever. Perfume. $36.98, 7th best flip of the week. Net return was $23.90. That's a net profit margin of 65%. $1 at a garage sale. Perfume is typically something that I don't buy a whole lot of. I've had fairly high return rates on perfumes for some reason, so it's not a category I go into all that much. Anyway, 7th best flip of the week was on this perfume. So Andrew has a couple of questions here. One, do auctions that ended up with the buyer not paying still pop up when searching for comps? I feel like that could mess up my feeling for how much an item's sold market value actually is. Yes, I just answered this in a previous video. I'll link it up top here. But yeah, those sold comps can't always be trusted. Just because it shows as sold does not necessarily mean that it was paid for. So check out that video. I answer that in more detail. Your second question here is the thrift store I'm mainly getting a lot of my high net return items likes to wrap the boxes in enormous amounts of tape. Any specific way you have in getting tape off without damaging the vintage of boxes? Yeah, that's super annoying. A lot of my thrift stores do the exact same thing, and it's like this lowest quality tape possible that comes off, not in big pieces, but in like rice-sized pieces. It's super annoying. The best way to handle that, if it's on a vintage box, it's going to be pretty difficult, but what you want to do is use a heat gun or a hair dryer and just, very gently heat the glue behind that tape and very, very gently pull that off. If it's a cardboard box, you may not be able to save it. I've been able to save it in some situations, but not all situations, but that's definitely the best way to do it. You can't use any liquid adhesive removers or anything like that, of course, and so that heat gun is where it's really going to come in handy. It's going to heat that glue up and hopefully allow you to get the tape off without damaging the box underneath, so give that a shot. G.I. Jason asks, question on shipping materials, bubble wrap versus craft paper for packing, pros and cons. So I use both bubble wrap and craft paper depending on the situation, or sometimes both. The craft paper I get is from the Boxery. I'll put a link down below. This is the cheapest I've been able to find it. Truthfully, I haven't done a ton of research, but I get these big rolls of craft paper, and I use that mostly for void fill. And so sometimes I wrap stuff in it as well, but usually it's just void fill. And the bubble wrap I get from American Bubble Boy, and I use that to wrap more fragile stuff. So if I'm shipping something like a Pyrex bowl, for example, that will get a nice wrap in bubble wrap. Then I'll usually wrap that in some craft paper for void fill and put more void fill around in the box so that there's no movement. That's when you know you've got a good pack, is after it's all taped up, shake it around. Make sure that you can't hear anything moving at all. So if you have a really delicate item, I definitely recommend you use both. Both are good tools in your toolbox. Coming in at number 6 is this Kim Kardashian lounge pullover. The brand is Skims. That's Kim Kardashian's brand here. I did do a bulk buy a couple weeks ago that I haven't talked about on the channel yet, but I bought roughly 450 pieces of this Skims brand new with tags clothing and about 150 pieces of Nike new with tags clothing as well. So I like to do these bulk buys every once in a while, just sourcing at garage sales and thrift stores and things like that on a part-time basis. It can be hard to get a lot of inventory at scale using those methods, but I like doing it, so I continue doing it. And I just supplement that with bulk buys like this. And the number one question I always get when I talk about these bulk buys is, well, where do you find these bulk buys? And I'll tell you how I found this one. I don't have any special connections necessarily. Several years ago, I was on Facebook Marketplace and I responded to an ad with some hats on it. And I went out to the lady's house, and it was obvious that she was a reseller too. She asked if I was a reseller. I said yes. And she said, well, I get a lot of stuff. Do you have any interest in buying in bulk? And I was like, yeah, definitely. And so this was before I had a YouTube channel. This is not me having some privilege of having a YouTube channel or anything like that. I just openly talked about the fact that I was a reseller and made connections like this. And this one turned out to be a really good connection to make. About twice a year, I will buy in bulk from this lady, stuff like this. But this was the 6th best flip of the week. I've got a $3 cost of goods on all these pieces here. It sold for $46.98 for the 6th best flip of the week. My net return on it was $30.81. That's 1,000% ROI on that one. So you're probably going to be seeing a lot of Skim stuff coming up in my weekly sold videos, and there's definitely another one coming up on this top 10 list. Coming in at number 5 is this Sanyo VHS player. I bought this for $5 at a garage sale just this past weekend. It sold for $59.98. My net return was $37.09 for the 5th best flip of the week. I'm always buying VCRs, especially if they have the remote, and I definitely like to see it when they have the documentation. That just tells me that the buyer probably took care of their stuff and it's probably going to be in good working order. That was the case here. Fully tested, fully operational, 3 days to sell, $37.09 for the 5th best flip of the week. Beatty asks, how do you handle returns where the buyer falsely claims item not as described? I sold a book recently listed in acceptable condition and uploaded photos of the damage to the spine. The buyer returned it as not as described, claiming that I listed it as new, which I did not. Yeah, that's super frustrating. It definitely happens. You know, a buyer that wants to return something is given many options of why they want to return it. Savvy and immoral buyers know that if you select item not as described, you pretty much have to accept the return. And maybe that's what this person did, or maybe they just didn't see the listing or didn't read it. All of those things are plausible, but you as the seller end up losing because you did describe everything right. Truthfully, there's not a lot that you can do. You can get on the phone with eBay. You can try to fight this, but you have to think about what your time is worth as well. You're probably going to spend way more time trying to fight this with not a guarantee of winning. It probably is just not worth it. If this item was worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, then it may be worth it. But if the sell price is lower, it may not be worth it for you. So consider what your time is worth on that. Personally, I just know that returns are going to happen. This is part of why I do free returns. And in my listings, I even put no questions asked returns, just because I'm building that into my business. I don't even care why the person's returning it. I don't care if they didn't read the listing or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you want to send the item back to me, I'll give you your money back and I'll relist it and sell it again. So while you can fight this and you can reach out to eBay, and eBay may side with you, they also may not side with you, and you're also going to spend a bunch of time doing that, and that time is worth money. So I would suggest just accepting the return, getting it back, refunding it, relisting it, and selling it to another buyer. Coming in at number 4 is this GP Toys RC car. I bought a big bin of RC cars like this at the first garage sale of the season. Y'all may remember that from a few videos ago. This one sold for $56.98 with a net return of $38.85. I had a cost of goods of $2. That that bucket, I think I paid $20 for the total bucket. This was the fourth best flip of the week. I think this was the last car to go, but that was a really nice find. I made a lot of money on that. Coming in at number 3 is this vintage Inter Milan soccer jersey. Regular watchers of the channel will see that this thing has sold in the past. It does have a return on it. As you can see, I originally sold it back in April for $85.98, but the buyer did open up a return. As you can see, I have free return, so that shipping label of $5.15 is accounted here. I relisted it a little bit cheaper. I wanted to get it out the door. Here's the refund going out. And it sold again for $65, so $20 less than what I sold it the first time here on July 3rd. Net return of $48.65. But even with that return, the purchase price of $5, I had that return shipping of $5.15, and the refund, I still netted out at $48.34 on this one. So that's why I just don't get too bent out of shape about returns, is because 90% of the time when you get a return, you can relist it anyway. And even with free returns, I often still make money on the deal, just like I did on this one. It was the third best flip of the week, even with that return. Luna asks, do you have any recommendations for smaller sellers who can't list new items weekly? I currently have 150-ish items for sale, and while I was daily listing 5 or so items, sales were good. Now I don't currently have anything to list, and my items are sitting with little to no views or sales. I understand I need to source, but until then, any advice to help boost views and sales? I currently use promoted listings, all buy it nows with best offers, and price competitively with quality photos. Some of my items have low STR, so that's understandable, but I am surprised to not even be getting any views. Am I just in a slump? Thanks for the question. It's a good one to ask during this time of the year, especially because it's summer, and often this time of year can be pretty slow on eBay just in general. Of course, it's not slow for lots of people. It really depends on what you sell, but for people that sell across all categories or have relatively small stores, the summer can feel very slow. And so it's a good question. Am I in a slump? What can I do to increase my sales? And the complexity for you is definitely greater because you don't have new inventory to list. And so that does make it challenging, because the best thing you can do to increase sales on eBay is to list new items, and preferably items that have a high sell-through rate and are in high demand and sell for a good amount of money. That's the best way to beat any slump. If you're selling stuff on eBay that has a high sell-through rate, you're not going to experience any summer slowdown or anything like that. But very few of us, including myself, have unlimited access to high demand, high sell-through rate inventory, and so we have to figure out other ways to keep our sales going during the times of the year when it might be slower, like right now. So if you don't have any new items to list, what I will recommend you do is go into your inventory. You go to the active list of all your inventory. I want you to change the sort so that you see the oldest items first, and I want you to take maybe 5 or 10 of those items and just end them. Go ahead and end the listings on eBay, and then I want you to relist them using the sell similar function. When you do this, it creates a new eBay item ID for each of those listings, and it appears as a new item in eBay's search. While I and other eBay YouTubers speculate a lot about the eBay search algorithm, we don't really know how it works. We just take some guesses. We go out there, we try things, and we report back to y'all what we think works. And I have a pretty high level of confidence that ending and relisting is a favorable thing you can do to your listings, especially older listings that just aren't selling. What it's going to do is sort of freshen them up and make them appear as new in the eBay algorithm. And eBay tends to favor new listings versus really old listings that haven't gotten any action in several months. And so I want you to, each day that you don't have new inventory to list, pick a few off the top of your oldest listings, end them, and then relist or sell similar. By the way, folks like to argue whether relisting or sell similar, whether one is better than the other. I think they're the same for what it's worth. They both create new eBay item IDs. They both appear as new items in eBay search. I do not think that there's a difference. And if you've worked with the eBay API as a developer, you'll notice that there's only one endpoint for both of those functions in the API. And so eBay on their side kind of treats them the same through the API. To me, that suggests that they're doing the same thing. I think in the past, maybe relisting didn't create a new eBay item ID, but test it for yourself. You'll see that it does actually create a new eBay item ID, just like selling similar. As you're doing this ending and relisting, I want you to review the photos. I want you to review your item details, your descriptions, your titles. Make sure that there's no mistakes in there. Make sure everything is accurate. Then I also want you to do the research as if you were listing it new. I want you to check active comps. I want you to check sold comps. I want you to check your listing price against other active listings and against other sold listings. And if there's other similar listings out there that have sold recently, but yours hasn't, I want you to look at those and think like, why did this one get picked and mine didn't? So scrutinize your listing, make sure everything looks good, make sure your pricing is competitive still. check the sell-through rate, kind of reset your expectations on how long it might take to sell. This is not going to magically make these items sell no matter what, but it's definitely better than doing nothing. And I just have tons of anecdotal evidence of me ending a listing that's been live for 6 months and then 2 weeks later it sells. It just happens very regularly for me. And so if you have nothing else to sell, I want you to get in the habit of nurturing your eBay store. And I know you mentioned that you already have promoted listings turned on and best offers turned on. Those are all good things too. If you didn't, I would suggest it might be a good opportunity to turn best offers on or turn promoted listings on. If you already have promoted listings on, consider maybe bumping the percentage up by 0.5% or 1%, just to give it a little bit more of an advantage. And then just repeat that process every day that you don't have any new inventory to list. Just take 5 or 10 items, end them, sell similar. But I do recommend you go out and focus on finding new inventory, because nothing is going to beat new inventory when it comes to selling stuff, and new inventory that's in high demand. Coming in at number 2 is yet another one of these Skims hoodies. This one sold for $86.98. This one actually went to the same buyer as the first one. The net return for the second best flip of the week on this one was $71.30. You'll notice a $0 cost of ship, but that's because it was combined shipping with the other one. Looks like I have 2 of these too, so there's another one out there ready to be sold. $71.30 was the net return on that one for the second best flip of the week. Pretty nice. Thanks, Kim. That leaves us with number 1, this iOmega zip drive. This thing is from the 90s, maybe early 2000s, but this is one of my favorite categories to sell in personally, is vintage computer gear. I saw 2 of these at a garage sale this past weekend. I bought both of them. What did I pay? Not much, $2 a piece. This one came with 1 zip disk and the other one came with a 3-pack of zip disks. This one sold for $96.98, took 5 days. Net return $76.67 on that one. Best flip of the week. I picked these up without looking them up, knowing it was going to be worth some money, but honestly, I had no idea they were going to be worth close to $100 a piece. The other one I've got listed for $109, I think, because it does come with more zip disks. I did test these things, plugged them into the computer, make sure that they turned on, make sure that they read the disk, and everything worked great. Just really shocked at the value that these things had. I didn't know it when I picked it up. Didn't know it till I got it home. Checked the comps on it, and I was very surprised to see that these things go for almost $100 a piece. So great little find there. All right, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, YouTube thinks you might like this other video of mine, so check it out.